we might have a problem here. So these are all the books that I'm taking with me to Sydney, and I'm kind of worried because how will I fit all of them?
These dismissing the hard work, they calling it talent. And I find that disrespectful cause I put on the mileage. Up for the but I'm down for the challenge. Step off the scene just to find me a balance.
I need to get a haircut before heading out for Sydney, and I'm heading out in 3 days. It's peak winter here in Jamnagar, but I've put in like four big containers of ice, and the water turns really cold. It's ice cold. That's the whole point of doing these ice baths. You do it exactly when you don't want to do it. It translates to everything else you do during the day. Actively seek discomfort to grow. That's why I started doing these ice baths. How am I going to fit all of this in a bag? It's almost impossible to do that. So I wanted to make use of this opportunity to talk about something. The story dates back to 2020. I was in my 12th grade and I started following a couple of productivity and self-help YouTubers such as Matt Diavella, Thomas Frank, Ali Abdal. Started following a few people on Instagram such as Nico Rauschenwald. He's the guy that started Project 50. Now, one common theme I noticed among all of these successful people, self-help gurus, top creators, is reading. All of them preach about the importance of reading and how reading can change the way you live your life. As a kid, I used to read a lot. I've read almost all of the Harry Potter books. I've read the whole Roald Dahl series. I've read a lot of books by Enid Blyton. I lost touch with reading the day I bought a phone for myself. For the past 4 to 5 months, I've really started reading quite a lot. I actually paired my habit of drinking coffee in the morning with reading. So I do not drink coffee unless I'm reading a self-help book. I've started reading for an hour each day. There's this guy on YouTube, his name is Iman Gaji. He's a 23-year-old self-made millionaire. He'd been reading a book a week since he was 14 years old, and he did that for about 6 years, and I successfully implemented the habit of reading, and I must say it has changed my life. Yeah, I'm not successful yet. I don't have millions of subscribers, and neither do I have millions of dollars in my bank account, but I do notice a change. It's completely transformed the way I think. It's completely transformed my perception of self. Now, about 2 months ago, I finished reading this book called Atomic Habits. This is probably the best self-help book ever. It is a very clear, concise, practical book about how you can build good habits. My main takeaway from this book was that goal setting does not matter unless and until you have good systems in place. And what do I mean by systems? I mean your daily habits. Everything depends on your daily habits. If you make something a habit, you will definitely succeed. It talks about the plateau of latent potential. It talks about bamboo growth. A bamboo shoots up 90 feet in the air in the first 6 weeks. Before growing above the ground, it forms an extensive root system underground for about 5 to 6 years. So that's how compounding works, right? It's not visible for the first few days, first few months, first few weeks. When compounding kicks in, the growth is really fast, right? So in order to harness the power of compounding, you need to have these atomic habits and get 1% better every single day. So it completely changed my perspective on success, goals, life. I'm going to talk about all of the books I read in this 2-month period because this is my channel and this is what I want to talk about. So I hope you find inspiration and I hope you read one of these books. The books that I've read in the past 2 months, the most recent book I finished reading was Build Don't Talk by Raj Shamani. Especially if you went to an Indian school, this book is a must read. It's all about things you weren't taught in school: investing, public speaking, sales, marketing, building a good business. This is a book that I really enjoy reading. So Naval Ravikant is probably one of the smartest people alive right now. He's a serial entrepreneur. It's a compilation of all of his tweet storms by Eric Jorgensen. Book is broken down every single tweet and elaborated on the terms Naval Ravikant has used. I was introduced to new terms like specialized knowledge, permissionless leverage, setting an aspirational personal hourly rate. It talks about happiness as well. Then this is keep going. I've already recommended this book, but it's a beautiful, nice book. You can read 5 pages of this book before going to bed, and it's a book for staying creative in good and bad times, but I think anyone can read this book. It's a very nice, breezy book. Now this, The 48 Laws of Power. Ishan, my friend, told me how this is the most manipulative, narcissistic book ever written in human history. When you read the laws, it does seem like it talks about how you should never appear too perfect, keep your hands clean, play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following, pose as a friend, work as a spy. But if you read this book, it makes you aware of how narcissists and power-hungry people function, how politicians function. Not everyone in this world will have good intentions for you, right? There are a lot of people that only want to control you, manipulate you, use you for their own benefit. If you're well versed with all of these 48 laws, I'm sure it'll be tough for people to control you or make use of you in a bad way. Do not live by this book. It's very important to read this book with awareness. Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday is a popular author of Stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that was stemmed by a few great philosophers that lived thousands of years ago, such as Marcus Aurelius, Cato the Younger, Cato the Elder, Seneca. Marcus Aurelius had this journal for himself that he never went to publish. And he wrote in that journal while he was the emperor of Rome, and after he died, his successors published that book, which he never intended to do, but you can actually buy that book right now. It's called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The philosophies of all of these philosophers combined is called Stoicism. It talks about ruling over the body, how living a strenuous life is the best life. It talks about seeking discomfort. It talks about consistency. It talks about showing up. It talks about temperance, temperament, knowing your emotions and not acting out of emotion. But I read this while I was playing a cricket tournament, so I used these principles while playing that cricket tournament. We ended up winning the tournament, and I was very happy with the way I performed in that tournament, and I credit a lot of that to this book. The Courage to be Disliked. Currently reading this book, but I'm almost done with it. So there's this young man who thinks the world is a gruesome place. He dislikes himself, he dislikes his friends, he dislikes his own parents. There's this philosopher who preaches Adlerian philosophy. Adler was an Austrian man, and his philosophies are called the Adlerian philosophy, and this is just a conversation that the young man and the philosopher had over 5 nights. It talks about interpersonal relationship problems, the courage to be disliked, inferiority complexes, superiority complexes. Pick any problem in your life, it will be an interpersonal relationship problem. It's broken down a lot of things in my head and made me happier in a sense. But yeah, the courage to be disliked. So the way I read these books is I usually read 3 books at once. Now that sounds kind of daunting at first. Hear me out. If you read one book at a time, you wait for yourself to get through that book. Every book has this point where it starts to get boring. The point where you lose touch with reading, you'll probably procrastinate and not read for a few days. You're basically reading less than you should. If you're reading just one book at a time, it's almost like an echo chamber, right? You're reading about the same philosophy every single day, and that's all you think about. That's all you're putting into your mind, and you don't want to live in echo chambers. So the way I read books is I usually read 3 books at once. I pick those 3 books very carefully. So one of those books has to be a finance book. That's something that I want to learn more about. The second book has to be a philosophy book. It could be Stoicism, could be meditation, it could be some Japanese philosophy. And the third book, I'll pick it random. So currently I'm reading The Way of the Superior Man, which is all about a man's life purpose, masculine energy, feminine energy. I felt like I wanted to read that book, and I just picked it at random as my third book. I'll basically bounce off those 3 books. The contrast messes with your head in the beginning. I was reading the Almanac of Naval Ravikant while I was reading the 48 Laws of Power. Now, Almanac of Naval Ravikant talks about zero-sum games and positive-sum games, right? When 2 people are adding value to each other's lives, positive-sum game, right? There's no hierarchy or there's no points table, right? But in games of power, if someone goes up in the leaderboard, another person has to come down. So the net effect is a 0, right? So it's a zero-sum game. Naval Ravikant advocates for positive-sum games, while the 48 Laws of Power is all about a zero-sum game. I was able to form a very neutral perspective between these two extremes. It improved my judgment. This video isn't similar to the videos that I normally make. You watch my videos or anyone's videos for the simple fact that they add value to your lives, and I felt like making this video would add value to your lives. And yeah, if it did add value to your lives, that's amazing. I'm happy reading. I think I'll see you in the next one.
Rotting.
And then